In this episode, I'm going to talk to you guys about the Yamaha R9 as well as my brand new Kawasaki ZX6R. Both of these motorcycles are in the middleweight sports category, and I think the decision for a lot of people is going to be a really tough one. So in this video, I'm going to talk about every single one of their features and weigh the pros and cons of each one. So with that being said, which one of these motorcycles offers the best balance, the best performance, the best features, as well as the most fun for your money? Well, let's go ahead and start out with the Yamaha R9 first. The Yamaha R9 has an 890cc three-cylinder engine. This three-cylinder engine produces about 117.3 horsepower at 10,000 RPM. Now, the major difference between this and the ZX6R, which we're going to get to in a little bit, is that because of its larger displacement, the Yamaha R9 has 68.6 foot-pounds of torque at 7,000 RPM. Now, how is this going to reflect while you're on the road? I'm not really sure, but to get a better idea, we could take a look at the Hyper Naked version, and everyone who rides that bike has a lot of great things to say about it because it's so torquey. And that's one of the things that I loved about my Street Triple RS. Although it didn't have a lot of horsepower, it's really the torque that really matters in the end. But besides that, this Yamaha R9 is absolutely decked out with electronics. So you get advanced electronic rider aids via an IMU-based ECU. So this means the typical stuff that you would get in a superbike, but now you get in a middleweight motorcycle. Traction control, ABS settings, as well as lift control, and all the other stuff that you and I both know about. So these are some really tricked out electronic aids. Some people, they may not be interested in these electronic aids because a lot of these motorcycles are getting these electronic aids, and it's turning a lot of people off because they like a more raw experienced ride. And that's where the ZX6R comes in, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. But regardless if you like it or not, these brand new motorcycles all come with it. The good news is that as a result of these IMU systems, not exactly sure if it's any useful on the road or not, but on the track, it makes you a much safer rider on the track. Speaking of the track, if you're a fan of going to the track, which is something the Yamaha R9 is probably designed to do, well, it's mostly a street bike, but you can take it to the track. So if you do take it to the track, the good news is it comes with a quick up and down shifter. That's something I'm really excited about because I love quick up and down shifters. Now, if you've been watching my videos, one of my disappointments with the ZX6R is that it only has quick up. It's not really a modern motorcycle where everything is controlled with electronics, and so therefore it has a cable setup, and the Yamaha R9 is completely electronic. So that's its main benefit. So if you're into quick up and down shifting, that's your bike. Besides that, I'm super happy that this motorcycle only weighs 430 pounds wet. As you already know, I own the Yamaha R6, and the Yamaha R6 is exactly the same as this, which is 430. By the time I was finished losing a ton of weight on the motorcycle by putting a full exhaust and, you know, chopping things and removing things here and there, I was down to 398 pounds wet. And I'm sure you could probably do the same with the Yamaha R9, thereby making it a lot faster because you're losing weight and it'll be a lot more flickable. But here's the great news. Yamaha says that this motorcycle has a 50-50 weight distribution. So therefore, it's very flickable in and out of corners. I think the only way to test this motorcycle is to put it on the track, and that's something I can't wait for. So here's a great quality of life improvement. The seating position on this motorcycle is way less aggressive for short riders like myself. I'm somewhere around 5'6" tall, and I have an inseam somewhere around 28-29 inches. So having a motorcycle that's 32.7 inches will make it a lot easier for people who are a little bit on the shorter side or have shorter torsos, a lot easier and more comfortable to ride. But if you're a rather taller person or someone who's got a taller torso, it really won't make that much of a difference for you. But here's the good news for taller riders. The wheelbase on this motorcycle is 55.9 inches. So that means you probably have a little bit more room to sit on this motorcycle, so you can get all the way to the back and lean yourself in for a good tug under the windshield when you're at the track. So for taller riders, this may probably be a beneficial thing. And for shorter riders, having a 32.7 inch seat It's probably going to make life a lot easier while you're on the road, traffic stops, red lights. And when we get to the ZX6R, you'll be quite surprised at the seat height of that as well. Now, let's go ahead and talk about suspension. This motorcycle gets a high-spec, fully adjustable KYB suspension for the price tag of $12,499. I think these high-spec adjustable KYB suspension, because it's adjustable, it's going to perform really well once you dial it down. And then, of course, this is mind-blowing because these stylemic calipers that are included with the Yamaha R9 is something that the previous gen superbikes had. For instance, the Ducati V4S, as well as my previous motorcycle, the Aprilia RSV4 had. These stylemic calipers are absolutely amazing. They stop you on a dime. And now they're included on a motorcycle that only costs $12,499. So I'm really, really excited about that because we're getting proper spec Brembo calipers. The surprising thing is that it only has a 3.7 gallon fuel tank. And if you're going to be riding this on a daily basis, or maybe once a week, you're taking long road trips here and there, maybe to the canyons and back, you're probably going to be stopping at the gas station quite often. So I'm not exactly sure why this has a 3.7 gallon fuel tank. I think the average for most motorcycles these days, well, sport bikes for that matter, is probably somewhere around 4 gallons, 4.5 gallons. So that's something that's got my head scratching a little bit about why it's such a small fuel tank. But regardless, there's a lot of other things, a lot of other positive things with this motorcycle, such as a track app. Like when you go to the track, if you have a pit crew, which probably 99.9% of us track addicts don't have, but if you did, your pit crew can send you messages directly to your screen like they do in MotoGP, Moto2, and all the other big race teams. So that's kind of exciting for a motorcycle that's meant for the street to have this. I think that's really, really cool. It also comes in 3 different colors. You get the Yamaha Team Blue, you get the Raven Black, and then you get my favorite, which is the Intensity White Redline. When I buy this bike, you will see the white Intensity Redline color because I think it looks absolutely beautiful. And now, let's go ahead and talk about the ZX6R. This is a motorcycle that I just recently purchased, and it's a motorcycle that I absolutely love. It's one of the best 600 class motorcycles to date, and it's one of the last remaining ones along with the Honda CBR 600, as well as the Gixxer. And I'm not exactly sure what else is left in the market, but these things are just being discontinued left and right. So grab one of these motorcycles while you can. The motorcycle comes with a 636cc inline 4 Screamer. The engine horsepower is about 127 horsepower, and you can get all that 127 horsepower at 13,000 RPM. Now, if you watch my previous video where I did the post oil change test, I mentioned something about not really realizing that the power drops off as much as most people complain, but most people complain that at 12,000 RPM, the power drops off significantly. I'm not sure if they're listening to the tuners who are making tuning videos with this motorcycle, so this way you can buy their tunes, or if they really feel the power dropping off after 12,000 RPM. But honestly, for me, I really didn't feel it that much, and I think it's an amazing bike, performed and tuned perfectly for the street. But this motorcycle also comes with 52.1 foot-pounds of torque, and you get all that torque at 10,800 RPM. As for the ECU and electronic suite, they're pretty rudimentary. You're gonna get traction control, and I think that's basically it, maybe stability. But to be honest with you, I could care less about that kind of stuff because I bought a 600 and I wanted it to be as old school as possible. And if I get the Yamaha R9, which I probably will get, then I have the best of both worlds. But that being said, not having an IMU is not a disappointment at all, and I'm actually glad it doesn't have one. But here is where the disappointment begins, because this motorcycle only has a quick up shifter and not a quick down. I wish it had quick up and down. This would make it a more modern motorcycle. When they came out with the Kawasaki ZX6R, gave that an IMU system, and they gave it quick up and down. And in 2024, when Kawasaki developed this brand new style ZX6R, I'm just scratching my head wondering why didn't they do the same exact thing to the brand new ZX6R? Maybe it's cost related, maybe they're thinking about discontinuing the ZX6R down the road, so why bother with it? I'm not exactly sure what Kawasaki is thinking, but as I mentioned before, the most disappointing thing for me at least is not having quick down. But anyway, similar to how much the R9 weighs, the ZX6R weighs 430 pounds with the non-ABS model, because they have 2 models, and then the ABS models weighs 6 pounds pounds more. So if you're taking it mostly to the track and this is going to be a dedicated track bike, my recommendation is to get the non-ABS model, and it's going to cost you less as well, probably by $1,000 give or take. Now, as far as what I was talking about with the Yamaha R9, the seat height is exactly the same. You get a 32.7-inch seat height, perfect for people like myself or anyone for that matter. However, the caveat being, wheelbase on this motorcycle is only 55.1 inches. This is something I'd like to see when I get both bikes, put them side to side and figure out. So stay tuned for a future video of that. Speaking of future videos, lots more to come. So hopefully you guys are liking this video and also subscribing to the channel. I have to get into the habit of asking people to like and subscribe because I've never done that. And to be honest with you, it feels really, really weird. But quite honestly, I'm being forced to do this because when I looked at my analytics, only 5% of my viewers are subscribed. So if you're one of those lurkers out there that watch my videos on a regular basis, please subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Anyway, we got a couple more things about the ZX6R specs, and then we're going to get down to comparing both of these motorcycles and weighing the pros and cons and seeing which one of these motorcycles earns your money. So as far as the front suspension is concerned, you're going to get Showa big piston forks, and in the rear, you're going to get a Unilink suspension single shock. And as far as the brakes are concerned, you're going to get Nissan calipers. And I'm kind of surprised about this because the Nissan calipers is something that I used to have in my previous gen R6. And that motorcycle is kind of like a dinosaur compared to these motorcycles. So not sure why Kawasaki went Nissan, but to be honest with you, I never had an issue with those brakes. And I used 100% of those brakes when I was at the track and never had a single issue. So, but anyway, considering that most modern motorcycles these days are offering Brembo for the same price, Kawasaki could have done a little bit better. But here's the good news. Like we were talking about previously about the Yamaha R9's fuel tank, the Kawasaki ZX6R has a 4.5 gallon fuel tank. And this is one of its strong points. So a 4.5 gallon fuel tank and Kawasaki's claim of 50 miles per gallon, which I don't think is true. You're not ever going to get 50 miles per gallon unless you're like seriously babying it and you're never going to have fun on the bike. But I get a consistent 40 to 45 miles per gallon. So the 4.5 gallons last me for a while, at least 2 rides, let's just say that. But anyway, it comes with an app that's called a Rideology app. The app is absolutely useless. You can't do anything with it. It provides you the same kind of information that it does on your dashboard, so it doesn't make sense to really have it on the app. If you want to make life a little bit easier by controlling your dash with the app, the only benefit, maybe this is a benefit, maybe it's not, but it records your ride. So it tells you how long you've been riding, but it doesn't give you stats about your lean angle or any of that other stuff. So I would give the app a 4 out of 10. But here's the last and cool part about this motorcycle. It comes with 3 really, really nice colors. You get a robotic white, you get a Kawasaki green, and you get a 40th anniversary edition. And now we're going to get into the face-off, which is the major differences between the motorcycles. So this right here could potentially be a deciding factor in which motorcycle you choose in the end. Let's talk about the big, most important thing first. The Yamaha R9 comes with an 890cc triple engine, okay? So you may not be into the triple sound, and the rev limit on the motorcycle is 10,500. On the other hand, the ZX6R has a 636cc power plant. It's down by about 250 cc's. Maybe it makes a difference, maybe it doesn't. Let's go on. It's got an inline-4 screamer and it revs out at 15,000 RPM limit. Having a motorcycle that revs out that much, it's just amazing because it screams all the way up at the 15,000 RPM marker. Meanwhile, the Yamaha R9 goes up to 10,500. So in this aspect, I think the Kawasaki wins with its inline-4 screamer engine. Next, we have the torque. The torque factors for the Yamaha R9 are 68 foot-pounds of torque, as well as 117 horsepower. Meanwhile, on the Kawasaki ZX6R, we get 127 horsepower versus the 117 on the R9. Meanwhile, the R9 has 68 foot-pounds of torque and the Kawasaki has 52.1 foot-pounds of torque. So if you're looking for torque, which really matters in my opinion more than horsepower, then the R9 is your motorcycle. Now the reason why the R9 gets so much torque is because of its higher displacement. And then the Yamaha R9 has an IMU system. If you care for it, the Yamaha is for you, and the ZX6R has a rudimentary electronic suite. The The Yamaha R9 has a quick up and down shifter. Meanwhile, the Kawasaki ZX6R only has quick up. The Yamaha R9 weighs 430 pounds wet with an ABS system, but the ZX6R weighs 6 pounds more at 436 with ABS. And then the R9 also comes with a pretty robust app for your phone or your devices, such as your tablets, and you can control a lot of different things inside of this app, including your IMU-based electronics. Meanwhile, the Rideology app is pretty rudimentary and kind of useless if you ask me. And then finally, the R9 is a much bigger motorcycle. Well, not really that much bigger, because the wheelbase of the R9 is 55.9 inches. Meanwhile, the wheelbase for the ZX6R is 55.1. And then you may or may not care about this, because if you go to the track, maybe it's a good thing because you're not carrying that much weight with you. But if you ride mostly on the street and you're taking long trips all the time, you might be just disappointed by the Yamaha's fuel tank, because the fuel tank is only 3.7 gallons. Meanwhile, the ZX6R, 4.5 gallons. Now it's your turn, guys. I want to know what you think. Would you choose the Kawasaki ZX6R or the Yamaha R9? Leave a comment down below, and please don't forget, like this video and also subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.